Here's a photo of the old bimini. Hey, you're supposed to be looking at the old bimini. And here's a picture of the new bimini. Remove the old Dodger, extend the bimini, make the enclosure, and mount the solar panels on the top. This was a major ordeal. If we were rich, we would have hired out the entire job. But we are poor, so we did as much as we could by ourselves. We removed everything, cut, bent, shaped, reused what we could. We repositioned the old mounts and ended up only needing 2 new bows for the new bimini. At this point, we hired new burn canvas to finish the bimini portion of the job. The bimini and the enclosure were exactly what we dreamed they would be. Our bimini is great. It turned out to be just like the enclosed back porch on your house. The old solar panels still work great, but were mounted on the sides of the stern rail where they often cut QP's delicate skin. The design of the bimini included mounting 4 solar panels on top. This was quite easy and fast. Remove the old panels, buy 2 more panels of the same size, mount 4 aluminum angles to the top of the bimini, install all 4 panels in the aluminum tracks, and hook up the controllers. Wow, job well done. Nope. The old controller could only handle 500 watts in 2 panels. Maybe I fried it. Anyway, after consulting with the experts, we decided that 1 controller for each panel would be best. If any one controller failed, the other 3 would still work, hopefully. Since we tried to eliminate as much water as possible in the bilge, we always shower in the cockpit. Privacy was an issue, and we used anything in arm's reach to make a makeshift shower. We finally gave in and bought 4 shower curtains and attached hooks in the 4 corners of the bimini. Now we can hang up the shower curtain in just a few seconds. QP is happy, so I'm happy. For a warm shower, we bought a 1-gallon garden sprayer and a 5-gallon black plastic bucket. QP made the sprayer black using a permanent black Sharpie. In the morning, set both in the sun, and in the evening, hot private showers. On very sunny days, the shower curtains double as pretty sunshades. Some of the old lines were rotten or sun damaged and needed to be replaced. We didn't realize how expensive the lines could be. After all, it's just rope. We finally decided to replace the worst ones and make do with the others. While working on the lines, we noticed that the U-bolts on the boom were worn nearly in 2. Of course, the OEM parts were no longer available. In an act of frustration and desperation, I did what I always do in these situations. I go wandering around the local hardware store. Did you know that 45 years ago, Cal used a standard bow eye for the U-bolts in the boom? A perfect fit. Replacing the mattress in the V-bed was a simple job. We ordered 2 mattresses online and had them delivered to the marina. We also bought an electric knife from Wally World to trim them down to size. We did make one mistake. If we ever do it again, we will order 1 king-size mattress and make 2 small triangles to fit in the sides instead of 2 twins that join in the middle, which we fight over every night to see who gets to fall in the crack first. One last piece of advice. Go ahead and invest in the dry deck under your mattress before it gets covered in mold. The anchor locker was full of rust, sand, and stinky stuff. Every time we pulled the anchor, whatever goo was on the chain ran under the V-berth into the bilge. Pew-wee! We made a cover for the hose pipe and also cut a bucket to fit inside the anchor locker to catch all the stinky stuff. Now under our bed is nice and dry. The windlass is the original, 43 years old and showing its age. The motor casing was rusted through and stopped working, probably due to water getting inside and shorting out the inner workings. We may have been able to patch the rusted areas, but it would never be dependable. Ideal Windlass is still in business and very willing to send us a new motor. Very willing, I say, because the new motor cost about $1,000. Repair completed and time to paint.
What are you doing?
QP complained about the inside of her little cabinet area is not pretty and clean, so we're going to scrape it out and paint it white at the same time that we're painting with the windlass.
That's good.
What are doing?
I'm painting. Before it's older and dirty and ugly looks not pretty. After painting, I hope it will be looks pretty and clean.
Only because we had a can of white paint open, QP decided to paint some of the kitchen. And at the same time the windlass and kitchen was being painted with the already open can of white paint, my sister Caroline was flying into Marsh Harbor, Bahamas to cruise with us for 3 weeks. Seems like a great time to start stripping and refinishing the teak hatch. By the way, the underside of the hatch happens to be, you guessed it, white. Be careful, Caroline. Everywhere you need to touch is wet. The old deck lights, anchor, steaming, and tricolor running lights were all incandescent and used a lot of power. We replaced all of those and the most often used interior lights with LED. We're trying to be more energy independent. Now, the only task left is to move the deck light switch from the far wall in the engine room, where it's nearly impossible to use, to the engine panel box, where it can be easily reached. The bow pulpit was made of some kind of hardwood about 2 inches thick and 20 inches wide. The first time we anchored in rough conditions, I noticed the bow pulpit flexing up and down 2 to 3 inches, and where it attached to the bow was quite rotten. How do I fix that? Perplexed as to a solution, I wandered around the docks looking at the bow pulpits on other boats. After stealing some good ideas, I drew up what I wanted and asked for estimates. You better be sitting down. $2,500 to $8,000. That was out of the question. I found my bow pulpit at the local grillman shop in Newbern. There I bought a piece of 1/4-inch stainless steel plate and 2-inch piece of 1/4-inch scrap, both for $150. I took my treasure home to Freya, got out my little side grinder, and 3 days later had all the parts ready to weld together. Back to Grillman, and for $75 they welded together my perfect fitting bow pulpit. They even put a bow in it to match the curve of the bow for free. My bow pulpit cost less than $250. That's a far cry less than $2,500 to $8,000. If you ever need a grill, please give Grillman in Newbern, North Carolina a look. The old lifelines were the standard white plastic covered cables. When QP walked up to the foredeck, she felt unsafe because the lifelines did not provide much support. How do I fix this problem? My sister Caroline, of course. Invite Caroline to visit, that way we would have enough manpower to bend the new stainless steel railing into shape. QP did not like the boarding ladders on the side of the boat, so we added a stern ladder to make QP feel safer when getting in and out of the dinghy. That worked well except for having to step over the old stern rail, so we cut that and made extra supports for the dinghy davits and a boarding gate. We were able to do all the work ourselves except the tight bends for the bow rail. St. Augustine Marine Center helped us with that part, and there's a lot more to that story if you're interested.